Okay, next up, staying on theme, our next session is Transformative Innovation, how ESG can fuel competitive advantage, and another fantastic group of speakers. We're going to have the session moderated by Keith James, Director of Behavior Change and Business Programs at WRAP, and he will be joined by Gavin Shipley from Sargensons Industries, with Charlotte Harrington from Blue Water, and Anthony Levy from Circularity-First. I welcome you all to the stage.
Okay. All right, good afternoon, everybody. So thank you ever so much for joining us for the session today on transformative innovation and how ESG is going to fuel competitive advantage. So I'm Keith James, Director of Behaviour Change and Business Programs at WRAP. We're a global charity that is working to create a future where resources are used sustainably and circular living is the norm. So it's all about bringing the circular economy to life. And that vision is simple and powerful. It's about designing waste out of systems, keeping products and materials in use for as long as possible, and regenerating nature. It's a vision that depends on innovation, not just in technology, but in behaviours, in finance, and in systems, making sustainable choices that are easy, desirable, and profitable. And so the fundamental question we're going to be exploring in this panel is how businesses can achieve long-term growth through breakthrough solutions to global challenges. So we know the world is facing converging crises, as you've heard today, from climate change to biodiversity loss, resource scarcity, social inequality. But challenges are innovation opportunities. When business put ESG principles at the heart of their strategies, they're not just managing risk. They're creating markets, they're creating the future. At WRAP, we recently published a report that we produced with OC&C where we asked businesses a challenging question, which is, are businesses leaving profit on the table? And the answer is yes. So we found that circular business models could unlock billions of pounds of untapped value in the UK through reuse, repair, remanufacturing, resale, and smarter design. But too few companies are seizing these opportunities. 1 in 3 of the businesses that we surveyed said that they want to act, but they face barriers such as lack of investment, limited data, or uncertainty about consumer demand. But the good news, as you're going to hear today, is that there are businesses who are moving faster and are already seeing the results. Businesses embracing circular and sustainable innovation are cutting costs, attracting investment, and building brand loyalty, staying ahead of regulation. They're turning ESG from a compliance exercise into a source of competitive advantage. So the people on the stage with me aren't just preparing for the future, they're redefining it. I'm delighted to be joined by such a range of exceptional leaders. So let's get started. If I could just ask you to introduce yourselves and your organisation, please.
Thank you, Keith. Great introduction. Can you hear me okay? No. Oh, there we go. Thank you. So my name is Anthony Levy. I am the CEO of an organisation called Circularity-First. We help organisations improve profitability and sustainability. We do this through strategic work, so consulting or education, but we've earned the right to do that through 17 years of practical delivery in implementing sustainability in an organisation. So that could be seamlessly integrating sustainability into their supply chain, across their operations, but actually right down into the solutions they offer to their customers in order to make competitive advantage. We believe in eating our own dog food. We've been independently evaluated by EcoVadis. We're in a platinum EcoVadis supplier. That puts us in the top 1% of companies worldwide. And this year we won an award from Tech UK as their President's Award for Climate.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Harrington. I'm co-CEO at Blue Water. Blue is a business that I'm sure many of you know. We are primarily a bottled water business, so you'll see us out in hospitality a lot. But we also diversified and moved into the world of filtration, so a bit like the water you can see on the table here, so almost trying to put ourselves out of business. We were founded on the belief that in doing business, you can help solve some of the world's problems. And the idea is that our business model could really be applied to any business or product or service. So our purpose is to change the way the world sees water. We are a purpose-led business. Everything we do is about how do we achieve that purpose. And to date, primarily we're known for our partnership with WaterAid. And we've given them over £6.1 million since we started that partnership and aligned with them until 2030 behind the UN Sustainable Development Goals. So I can talk about that a bit more later on in the conversation.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? Oh, better. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Gavin Shipley and I'm the Technology Centre Director at Sargensons Industries. Now, Sargensons are an SME aluminium foundry based in Coventry, and since the 1930s we've been supplying structural complex aluminium castings primarily to the automotive industry. But in the last 5 years, we've made a conscious decision to develop our upfront capability by offering innovative and advanced digital twin technologies to our customer base, which allows them to lightweight and de-risk new vehicle design. And this work has led on to the Pivot project, which hopefully you'll hear about today, which we are leading, which aims to revolutionise the global casting industry with faster development of lighter and more sustainable cast solutions. Thank you.
Well, thank you all. So as you can see on the slide, there is a Slido where you can add questions. So please do add any questions you've got for the panel there. But if I could start with you, Anthony, I wondered, could you give us a view, please, on how circular innovations like remanufacturing hardware can help cut carbon, waste and cost while delivering an attractive business proposition?
Slightly prepared that question. No, it's a really good question, and contextually, the focus point of what I talk about is in IT and energy use. But let me put the case to you why that's so important. So already we see very fast growth in costs in energy. 60% increase in energy costs over the last 5 years. 60% increase. In your business or organisation, you're seeing IT costs ramp up probably about 10% year on year. So we've got a really big financial challenge that is putting pressure on our organisations. But if you combine that at the same time with carbon, for IT already represents about 4% of global carbon emissions. That's twice aviation. But it's predicted to be up to 14% by 2040. That's more than cement and steel combined in terms of its total carbon emissions. And that would make it one of the fastest growing emission streams. So if we look at these two things together, we're seeing that carbon and cost are quite intrinsically linked. And we see that increasing very rapidly, particularly across technology. But what can you do about it? Let's face it, we all need energy. You can't magically stop using energy. We're very reliant on IT. It's innovate or die, right? So if you don't invest in IT, you get left behind. So what can we actually do about it? Well, let me give you two examples. So, most of us are probably moving over to hybrids or electric cars, but use the analogy of a car. If you drive home tonight, do you leave your car running overnight because you're going to need it in the morning? I really hope none of you do, just to be clear. But with our technology, with IT, we often do. We leave our IT systems running all the time, 24/7. But with modern infrastructure, you can actually control not only the IT, but lighting and heating to be scheduled to be turned on and off. Equally, you can have it so it automates based on occupancy and rooms and things like that. Now, that sounds like common sense, but the vast majority of organizations are still not doing this. But the technology is there. And if you implement a solution like that, if you automate that process, you could probably save about half the amount of energy you use in those systems. Half of the energy from IT, half from lighting and heating, which creates a massive cost saving, but equally the same kind of saving from a carbon point of view. Now let's move into circularity. You talked a bit about circularity, Keith. Most of us live in nicely renovated homes. We don't all get to live in brand new homes. Most of us have been comfortable probably at getting a pre-approved used car. We might buy used devices for our kids to use to access the internet and things. But when we walk into our organisations, very few have a principle to use remanufactured technology in their organization. Very few. But the gains are massive. Not only is there a commercial gain, you can save about 20 to 30% in the cost of using remanufactured IT, but you can also lower the carbon footprint by about 60%. 60% less embodied carbon, scope 3, and for those experts in the room, you know that's the hard to abate part of our sector, by just using remanufactured technology. Now, we're not talking about stuff you just get off eBay, battered, used, or whatever. We're talking the original vendors fully remanufacturing technology that's as good as new, with the same licensing, the same support, the same warranty, the same everything. There's a theme there, right? Lower cost, lower carbon. But it's not just about cost and carbon. Earlier today, we had conversations about resilience. Think about our dependency on energy. Think about what's going on in the world and wars that are being fought about energy and resources. Don't you want to be in a position where you have the least amount reliant on energy systems as possible? Don't you want to have as a diversified supply chain as possible? Implementing the circular economy brings that resilience, but also those cost savings and carbon savings. So look, I've put this pitch to you that you've got this financial savings, there's carbon savings. Great, but why aren't more organizations adopting it? I think there are two major reasons why people aren't adopting it. First of all, is when we look at solutions like that, we need that sort of systems thinking. You've got two different areas of expertise, IT and sustainability. And there's very few people who have the overlapping skills to see the gains and the benefits across those two different areas. I think we see that replicated in lots of other areas, right? Not just in IT. The second piece, and we like to talk about this a lot in our area, is data, right? We're always talking about we need the data to prove it, we need the data to show it. Well, fortunately now there is the data to accurately measure IT emissions from IT, although it is very recent that's become available. So look, these aren't sort of vaporware ideas, these aren't crazy new innovations. These solutions that I've talked about are used by the Ministry of Defence, they're used by DEFRA and the NHS. They're used by big telecommunications companies like Colt and Vodafone, but they're not mass adopted yet because people aren't stopping to think about it. So the bit I'd leave with you is just you've got to think about how you bring your different teams together, how you bring external challenge with data, because the benefits to the bottom line, to differentiation, to fundamentally the value of your organization are really right in your grasp. They are absolutely achievable, and we've seen it time and time again.
Right. Thank you, Anthony. So we've heard about the importance of having a systems approach and also the importance of data. But Charlotte, as well, I think one of the other things that's really important is purpose. And Bellew channel 100% of your net profits through water aid. I wondered if you could tell us a bit more about what that shows about how profit can be directed to social and environmental impact whilst also being commercially viable.
Yeah, sure. There's quite a lot within that. I think the first thing it's important to say is that obviously Bellew was founded with this belief. So it's very hard to retrofit the sort of purist view that we have within our business model to other businesses. So I acknowledge that. But I guess what I would like to achieve really is to inspire people to think differently, to see what could they do that would be even just a small improvement. So for Bellew, it is all about our purpose, and it's also about our values and the way in which we go about doing business. So for us, that's the differentiator. It's not just the business model. It's not just the fact that 100% of our profits are invested in our purpose. It's also how we go about doing business. And for us, mostly that's around collaboration and partnerships and making sure that whatever we do, whatever the decisions we make are, that they're grounded in truth and in data ultimately. So for Bellew to exist, we operate transparently in a way that most small businesses don't. So we've audited our accounts for many, many years. We're a £10 million business, so for most of you will know that you don't need to disclose all of your P&L. But we choose to do that. And what we've done beyond that is also our carbon footprinting for about 15 years. And that's not just the office, that's everything from our raw materials through production, through the use phase, and then through to end of life. So we are really looking at everything, and we've tracked that and scoped that all the way through. And what we decided to do a few years ago is really bring it to life, because I think storytelling is really important. This is quite dry, it's quite a lot of data in here, and certainly for our customer base, which is predominantly hospitality and maybe corporate facilities managers, a lot of this doesn't make sense in terms of what they're being asked to do within their business. So what we wanted to demonstrate is a simple way for them showing that they had made a conscious decision to choose to buy from a small business that happens to be a social enterprise, and in doing that, they could actually achieve some of their ESG goals. So we've created a purpose P&L, which we've trademarked as a concept. And really what we do within this is we demonstrate how revenue translates through a business. This is really obvious, but to lots of people, they struggle to understand that we too have cost of goods, we have overheads to cover, and then whatever's left is what delivers our impact. And then what we do is we demonstrate how that impact comes to life. And we've aligned ourselves against the Sustainable Development Goals, so we actually took quite a bold step in 2021 and we wrote those into our company articles. So it means that Baloo can only ever exist to deliver against specifically Goals 6, 12 and 13. So for us, bringing that to life for clients to understand actually this is how we show up in the world, this is what it means by choosing Baloo, and being able to show that to them each year, for us was a really different way of starting that conversation and demonstrating that profitability and profitability for purpose really can be a different business model in the world.
Thank you, Charlotte. And Gavin, competitiveness is also really important as well. And I wondered if you could say a little bit more about the work you've been doing on recycled aluminium and advanced digital technologies to really drive competitiveness through more environmentally sustainable approaches.
Yes, of course. So this is about the Pivot project that we're leading. So it's a 3-year program supported by the Advanced Propulsion Centre, known as APC, and match funded by Innovate UK. The APC mission is to secure long-term R&D investment in the UK automotive sector and support the route to net zero through all elements of vehicle manufacture. Now, the Pivot project is designed to meet these aims through radical innovation in the world of aluminium die casting. We meet those needs in several ways. Firstly, Altair, who have been newly acquired by Siemens, will be developing the world's first one-stop shop casting design software, using techniques pioneered by ourselves at Sargent & Sons, and the adoption of AI, which is a key word at the moment everyone's using. We have a target of reducing future mass in automotive components by 30%, a huge saving. The project will also look to adopt 100% recycled content with no reduction in material properties, which is absolutely key. And that will be done with innovative alloy development conducted by Brunel University's BCAST facility in London. Now, critically, the recycling processes that allow us to move to secondary aluminium will be developed with an industry-leading pilot line that should pave the way for true UK circularity. Now, once proven, this will lead to a reduction of over 90% in associated embedded carbon in new structural castings. And what a lot of people don't understand is that aluminium is probably one of the most carbon intensive of all materials. So to drive 90% out is a huge step forward. And this will be created and developed in the UK. We'll also create a new casting centre of excellence at Sargent & Sons to support the Pivot template. This £6 million project is expected to create hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs, secure £38 million of UK investment, and critically remove 8 million tonnes of CO2 from the manufacturing processes. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. Yes, so we've got quite a few questions coming in from the floor, so please do add your questions. I wondered if I could come to Anthony first with a question about remanufactured tech. So the question was, why aren't more companies using remanufactured tech? Is it to do with safety or risk or something else?
Good question. Well, let me be candid. There is no safety concerns. You know, if the MOD can deploy these in battle-ready aircraft carriers, if the NHS can use it in critical care units and hospitals, I think you'd have heard about it if there'd have been any issues. So safety isn't it, but there is a perception that has to be understood, and people need to go on a walk to understand that and get there. But I think mostly it's just about what breaks through in a very, very noisy marketing space. So in technology, I'm sure even if you don't work in IT, you're bombarded with messages, whether it's about AI or the next version of Windows or the upgrade to your phone. It's a very, very, very noisy space. And very few of the vendors prioritize marketing things like remanufactured equipment. It's done quietly along the side, and they'd probably, if they were honest, prefer you to buy the bright new shiny thing than perhaps the remanufactured item. So I think that's a key driver.
All right, thank you. Gavin, what have been the biggest challenges and advantages for sustainability with Sargensons?
One of the big challenges is availability of recycled aluminium in the UK. We really don't have true circularity. We're developing techniques that allow us to use recycled content with much lower carbon intensity. But in the UK, we need investment. What we do in the UK at the moment is that when we recycle end-of-life vehicles, post-consumer scrap, we shred, downgrade, and we export that material, offshore it. And ironically, we then bring that downgraded material back into the UK again, but it can't be used for structural applications like automotive or aerospace. So one of our biggest challenges is the availability of this material that we can then sell on, or manufacture and sell on to our customer base. So we believe that investment's needed. We're looking at new ways, innovative ways of working with this type of material so that it stays within the UK. There's enough of this material in the UK to support all of our industries, and just rethink how we're going to work with that material in the future. So I think that's probably one of our biggest challenges as we move towards sustainability and the drive towards low carbon aluminium solutions.
Thank you. And Charlotte, we had a question around ESG and not forgetting the S. I wondered if you might like to pick up on that point about the importance of not just looking at environmental issues.
Yeah, I mean, I think the two often go hand in hand in reality, and certainly, if I think about the work that WaterAid do in particular, the focus now is on climate resilience in communities around the world, and I think there is, there is a kind of a natural attraction, I think, for our clients to get engaged with the social side of things. And certainly if I think back to, the early days, that was certainly the bit that engaged people most. I think increasingly after things like Blue Planet, people started wanting to have a conversation about packaging, or how do they remove packaging or reduce the packaging, hence our move into kind of filtration. And I think it is really important that people don't forget the social impact of what's going on around the world, and that climate resilience is affecting communities in ways that nobody could have predicted. So I think it's critical. I don't know if it gets forgotten widely. It certainly doesn't where we are, but I think I'm in an echo chamber sometimes, because we are fortunate enough to work with people who really get it. And actually, most of the businesses we work with don't separate ESG from the purpose of why they exist. So, they are restaurants with provenance at their heart, with the well-being of their teams at their heart. They genuinely care about people and planet. And so, for me, it's not the world where it's just a kind of tick box exercise where people may focus on the E and G slightly more so. But yeah, I think it's critical.
If I could just add to that, I mean, when we look at circularity, so that the whole purpose of circularity is to keep resources in use as long as possible. Again, particularly in IT, we like to use things for a fairly short space of time before we move on to the next version. We've sold the new iPhone, the new laptop, or whatever it is. And of course, I've just talked about the pure environmental elements of that. As we get sort of further down the use life of devices, there's a real opportunity to donate technology at the end of your use of it to make sure someone else can use it. So that might be closing the social divide or the tech divide in the UK, or we've just donated a load of equipment to Ukraine to help rebuild schools. Now, that has a double win. You're preventing the need to dig more holes in the ground and create that really heavy emissions and damage the environment, but you're also doing social good by donating things that have already been made. So circularity has a real strong factor in hitting both the A and the S in that scenario. So circularity for me is a primary way of looking at both at the same time.
Thank you. We've got a couple of questions on using plastics in particular. I wondered if any of the panel would like to answer. So if I can put them both together, the first question was about growing production of plastics. It's ever increasing from the fossil fuel industry, but also once it has been produced and it's reached the end of its life, recycling facilities are closing down, so we're missing opportunities to do something better with that plastic. Do any of you have perspectives on that issue you'd like to share?
I'm really in the metals industry, but we do work in automotive, and the use of composites is increasing, and they are dreadful for recycling. They are trying to develop new techniques for repurposing this material. Not so much recycling it, but reusing it in a different way, perhaps repurposing it. So, from my perspective, we're not seeing in the automotive industry any real kind of clever initiatives to move away from some of these materials are really not very good environmentally, which is why we're keen to drive through the metal options for super lightweighting that are or can be fully recyclable and greener initiatives to work with.
So there's a couple of things. I mean, I think it's important first to say that we do have a range of plastic. It's necessary in some environments. So in a spa, for example, where a glass bottle isn't suitable, the client will probably want to put in something that is plastic-based. One of the biggest challenges we've had, a bit like the aluminium industry, is getting hold of good quality, food-grade, recycled plastic to use in blowing bottles. And quite often, that has to be sourced from Europe, not from the UK. So I think for me, the fundamental issue here is the infrastructure in the UK, the infrastructure and the funding that support all recycling. I don't think it's just plastic, and I don't think it's just aluminium. I think it's end-to-end. The system is broken and hasn't had the investment that's needed for many years. And so whilst we will absolutely support circularity, and we will always endeavour to source as much of the recycled materials that we use, both in our glass product, our new cans, our plastic bottles, it's not always possible, and that's a huge frustration on our point. And I think, as you can hear, it's across industries. It's not, it's not one industry. So I think that's one of our biggest challenges.
Thank you. And across the panel, we've heard examples of how we're extending the life of products, how we're avoiding the need for products altogether, and how we're making better use of materials as well through recycling. I wonder particularly, Anthony, whether you feel like there is an issue with built-in obsolescence that means that products aren't lasting as long as they could?
I'm going to take that as a leading question, but you're quite right. No, so I think we're all responsible for this one, right? So yes, manufacturers are going to kind of try and sell us the next new shiny thing, right? But we have our own choices about whether we take that next new shiny thing, right? So where our choices get taken away is when it's enforced, to your point. And that's very, very common in IT, whether it's pushing new software versions that don't work on an old product or no longer providing upgrade paths for old products. It's a massive problem, and it's not regulated, and even the big European push for the right to repair and stuff is really only touching the kind of sides of this. But look, you can control what you can control. I would encourage everyone to, in IT terms, you can pretty much double the lifespan that you think you can use your device for. Whether that's a laptop, people most usually use laptop for 3 to 4 years. You can use it for 6 to 8. The same is true for a server in your data center. And that piece of networking equipment you could easily use for 8 to 10 years. So you've just got to push back. When you get those first sets of messages from the salesperson trying to get you to rip and replace or to change your technology, just ask yourself that really, really simple question. Do I need it?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And Charlotte, as well, when we're thinking about Scope 3 emissions, we're at the stage really where no one company on its own can actually tackle those. We need to collaborate, and often collaborate with our competitors. So what's your experience of working with others in your sector and maintaining your competitive advantage?
So I think you're right in terms of collaboration. It's key through our supply chain, and we are really fortunate because a lot of our supply chain partners, despite us being probably a relatively small player in the market, do engage with us because we have got first-hand experience of what they're trying to tackle for their other clients built up over the last 10 to 12 years. I think my experience is that we're all trying to figure it out together, and actually, therefore, the competitive nature of it isn't as relevant. I think when we come together, there are solutions learnings from different industries as well. So I think quite often the packaging industries tend to be quite siloed, and they need to learn from one another. So I think the conversation needs to be broader than just one packaging type, and that's, I guess, where we try and bridge that gap to talk about our experience of working with others and bring them into the conversation. So I think it's an ongoing piece, but I think it's really important that brands come together, and there's been some interesting dialogue quite recently around EPR, which is a new packaging tax that's coming in, and actually our conversations with other SMEs in particular has been really encouraging, actually, in terms of feeling feeling the same pressures and challenges as we're facing into what could be quite a detrimental packaging tax, particularly for those supporting hospitality. So working through that at the moment, but I think coming together with competitors will be that step change that we need in terms of the lobbying and the voice that we can have together.
Thank you. And Gavin Charles just told us about an area where legislation and policy might provide a challenge and an opportunity. Would you see government stepping up and being a partner in actually developing these sustainable solutions?
Yes, I mean the ABC, Innovate UK is a government-funded body. They are looking at initiatives to drive through sustainability. I suspect from our industry, they'll also be maybe introducing legislation that would dictate sustainability is driving the future of manufacture. From our perspective, it could be the CBAM, you may have heard it, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. That will be making its way from Europe into the UK, so the CO2 footprint associated with manufacture will dictate, if you're exporting, what tariffs could be associated with that. So I think it needs to be a kind of a carrot and stick thing, really. So they need to support with funding opportunities to allow sustainable innovation to grow within the UK. But at the same time, they also need to bring forward as quickly as possible legislation that dictates that we need to be far more sustainable with our future manufacture.
Thank you. And if I can ask a final question of each of the panellists. So how do businesses balance experimentation with accountability when innovating for sustainability?
That's a really good question. So I think organizations have to continue to try stuff. So I think I'm always a proponent of test, don't guess, right? So I think you go through cycles of testing things, and be really open-minded about the things that you'll brainstorm on, the things that you'll try. I think the accountability comes in once you decide what you're going to do. Once you just choose to implement those things, then of course they've got to face up to the same rigors across the organization. Does it have an ROI? Is it going to meaningfully hit the other KPIs, like carbon reduction or social value or whatever it is? So I think, you've got to break free a little bit in the innovation in the brainstorming period, but you've got to knuckle down and treat it just like anything else when it comes to embedding it in your organization.
I think just to add to that, for us, the innovation is critical, and I think the test and learn approach is really important. Don't be afraid of what might happen and what you might learn, but take those learnings and move forward. And I think if you empower people to do that, they will take accountability for you, and that's really the way in which we tend to focus on innovation in Blue.
I guess from our perspective, look for funding opportunities, because that allows you, because R&D is expensive and time consuming and you've got constraints, it allows you to have the opportunity to explore and experiment. If that's not available within your industry, I would look to tie it closely to existing manufacturing so that you can run parallel studies with sustainability innovation in a way that allows you to understand its commercial viability and feasibility before committing a lot of resource to it. So yeah, look at opportunities, but before there's a lot of time and effort involved in the kind of exploration and evaluating new sustainable techniques.
Right, thank you. So thank you to all our panellists for your thoughtful and inspiring contributions, and thank you to everyone who submitted questions as well. So your engagement in this session is really appreciated. I think what we've heard today really reinforces a simple truth. Innovation and sustainability go hand in hand. We can't treat them as separate issues. The organisations you've heard from today are going to lead the market, not just now, but for decades to come. And that's because they're thinking about ESG not as a reporting burden, but as a means of fueling transformation, rethinking the products that we offer, the services we offer, and how we build partnerships across the public and private sector as well. I think 3 key takeaways that I've got from this is about how technology is enabling transparency, efficiency and creativity. I'm going to start sounding like Donald Trump, but it's going to do it at a scale we've never seen before. It's going to be great. We've got a brilliant future ahead of us. Secondly, circular business models are profitable, and you can think about your business in any way at all. The way that Bellu are thinking about their business is not the way that most businesses are thinking about it, and yet it is a competitive model, and it's really attractive. So there's lots of ways we can rethink the problem. But thirdly, it's about collaboration as well. So that's across sectors, it's across parts of the public and private sector, and it's across value chains as well. These are exactly the sort of things we see at WRAP. With the businesses we work with through our pacts on textiles, food and drink, on plastics, and the work that we're now doing around the world, we see businesses and the public sector coming together to innovate. And the results are really powerful. We can lower waste, we can lower emissions, but also we can strengthen supply chains and we can have healthier profits. So what I hope you're going to go away with today is the sense that we can keep pushing the boundaries where possible. Innovation should be circular, and it should be the norm, and sustainability is absolutely the foundation of competitive advantage. So thank you. So please join me in once more thanking the panelists for sharing their insights today.